In this first breakfast session of Track 2, please welcome Sandeep Potdar to the stage, the Senior Director of Product Management at Qualys, who will showcase the role of the Qualys Threat Research Unit, the hidden power behind Qualys' solutions.
Thank you. This session was originally scheduled at 2 p.m., and I was the only one in the room, so I thought it'd just be me. But thank you for showing. This is after lunch, but I promise you, I won't put you to sleep. There's a lot to cover in the next 30 minutes. This is our first time behind-the-scenes tour on TRU, Threat Research Unit, or like we call it internally, TRU. So let's get started. What is TRU, and who are we? Threat Research Unit has been at Qualys ever since Qualys started. So for 25 years, this is a team of 120 security researchers that have powered all our solutions, all our products, including the newer products like the Total AI product that we launched yesterday. So this team basically does first-hand research, all security research. Most of them are white hat researchers. Some of them also go in the deep web, dark web, to find the relevant information that is required. And this is a team that has won multiple awards. We've won 2 Pony Awards. We've been nominated 12 times every year, year after year, we are nominated, including last year when we were nominated by the Pony Award team for our render doc vulnerability. And this Pony Award is not a regular basic award. This is a huge deal. This is like the Oscar Awards or the Grammy Awards of the cybersecurity industry. And we are just privileged, we're just proud to be always nominated, and we've been winning these awards as well. Not only that, but some of our recent discoveries, like you see the 2 ones that I've highlighted, the Looney Tunables, as well as spawn kits, these discoveries were also added to the CISA KEV list, the known exploitable vulnerability list. So all of this is our primary research that the research team does, that we want to make sure that our customers, our users are able to always secure their environments for. So this is a team that does all of that. Now, I'm sure that most of you have heard about the NVD issues and the NVD delays that are happening for the past few months. This team is not solely relying on NVD, so we are really not affected. We do a lot more other than what NVD provides. We have primary research. We go to the vendor advisories. We look it up. We research what that advisory says. We get all of the context behind it. Many a times, we also try and create exploits. And we want to make sure that we give you all of that information, whether it is the CVSS scores, whether it is the EPSS scores, whether it is TrueRisk that I'll be talking about in a little bit. All of this information is curated by this team so that all of that context is available to you to prioritize and, at the end, basically remediate your vulnerabilities as well. Let's take an example of the most recent named vulnerability that we discovered last month, a couple of months ago, as a matter of fact. It's called regression. We named it regression because it was a regression of a previously known bug in OpenSSH, and it basically came back. And this was an unauthenticated remote code exploit, and basically it granted full root access to the attacker, and it posed a significant risk because this was undetected and did not require any user interaction. So this was, again, a discovery that one of our security team members did, and we also made sure that we follow practices and processes where we disclose this very responsibly to the world. Now, when I say that we are the leader in vulnerability research, how do I quantify and how do I qualify that? Right? Actually, it's very easy. It's simple to quantify and qualify my statement when I say that we are the leader in vulnerability research. We are going to measure and compare our coverage, speed, and accuracy. In other words, we're going to look at how we have the most coverage, the fastest response times, and Six Sigma accuracy. So let's first talk about our coverage, our most comprehensive coverage. Now, firstly, we cover various technologies, including operating systems, network devices, web servers, production servers, productivity suites, and security software, offering custom security solutions for diverse environments. And secondly, we have the most extensive operating system and architecture coverage. And unlike some of our competitors, we support multiple operating systems, whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac OS, AIX, IBM. We have all of those operating systems covered. And this is across various architectures. This is across various environments so that we ensure that you have the superior compatibility as well as comprehensive security coverage that we provide. Let me take an example and compare where we stand with some of our competitors. Now, my legal team, I had the names of the players on this slide, but my legal team had me remove the names, but they still let me keep the colors. So hopefully, you know which one is which one. The last two, I had to remove the names, but I couldn't find the color support because I'll talk about the last two in a bit. But as you can see, our CV coverage, we cover a little more than 103,000 CVEs, which is still 13% more than our closest competitor and a whopping 32% than another competitor. The other two that you see with question marks are two competitors that don't even disclose how many CVs they cover. But based on our testing and our research, it's one of the competitors actually covers half of the CVs that we cover at Qualys. Now, numbers are one thing, but think about how the attacker is viewing this information, right? Now, the attacker is not going to ignore you or let it go easy because your tool does not cover a certain CVE. But we want to make sure that we provide the best coverage, and that's why we are covering as many. As far as the CISA-KEV coverage is concerned, we've set the industry standard, and we're proud to say that we cover close to 99% of the CISA-KEV catalog. Now, there's still 1.3% that we are still trying to cover, but these are vulnerabilities that are on older systems. These are on older software that pretty much no one uses. They provide the least enterprise business value, but we are still trying to make sure that we cover the remaining 1.3% as well. And we don't stop there. We want to make sure that it's not only CISA-KEV coverage. It's also not about the breadth of coverage, but let's also talk about the depth of coverage. So I was talking about some of the competitors there who claim to have 70% of our coverage. But their coverage really is all that they're doing is they're going at NVD and they are finding the CPE ID for it and they're matching that and then they're claiming that is a vulnerability that you have. Not only it's a problem for the accuracy of that because you might have false positives or worse, false negatives, but because they're not going deep enough, sometimes they're not able to accurately identify whether that vulnerability exists or not. What we do is many a times we also, like I said, create exploit-based checks. So these are vulnerabilities where we are able to remotely try and exploit it just like an attacker would, and therefore we are able to provide you an attacker's perspective and give you a confirmed existence of that vulnerability on your systems. We also provide enhanced contextual information, like I said. So it's not only the CVSS scores, the EPSS scores, or the CISA-KEV due dates and all of the metadata that CISA provides, but it's also our own active research where we manually go and verify what the severity of this vulnerability is, what the impact is of this particular vulnerability, and we are able to update that. Even if the CV information is not available on the NVD, our researchers proactively go and still do all of these processes and find what their CVSS scores are. And the platform is completely automated. As soon as it detects that NVD has published the CVSS information, it automatically updates it. So that's why it's always auto-updated and always current. So that was about our CVE ID coverage. Let's talk about the non-CVE coverage, right? So in this case, we provide extensive vulnerability coverage, which not only covers CVEs, but also non-CVE vulnerabilities. We want to provide coverage for misconfigurations, and we want to provide the best security coverage that we have. So we cover close to 13,000 non-CVE vulnerabilities. These are the vulnerabilities that don't even have, or many a times these will never have a CVE ID, but we have 13,000 of these detections, and they're still important. And this broader scope ensures that organizations such as yours are not only reacting to known vulnerabilities, but also to progressively addressing a wide range of potential security weaknesses. This is the latest DBIR report from Verizon, as it highlights that there's a significant rise in breaches tied to third-party and open-source software. So what we announced earlier this year in April is software composition analysis. We gave that away for free for all our VMDR customers. So SCA basically helps mitigate vulnerabilities such as from Log4j by scanning the code bases, as well as scanning all of your assets for these libraries that may be present on these assets. And we are able to, not just as a tool, but provide a strategic approach where you can inventory and identify if any of these vulnerable open source and third-party libraries exist in your assets, and as a result, take remediation action on it. As a result, we've been able to increase our detections by around 17,000 detections, which is close to 15,000 additional vulnerabilities. And as a result, we keep growing our overall coverage as well. Speaking of third party, what about the first party tools that you have, right? So you may be creating your own software that you're using in your applications, and as part of custom assessment and remediation, our CAR module, we are also able to cover the custom-built first-party applications as well, therefore increasing your coverage even to those weaknesses that you may have in your first-party software. This morning, Naeem was talking about the total AI product. So our security coverage in AI and LLM has also increased. We've now created 1,000+ detections that cover AI and LLM. So these are the threats and vulnerabilities that are basically from poison data sources or your pre-trained LLM models. And we have those covered, around 1,000+ detections that cover frameworks and tools such as TensorFlow, PyTorch, Skillet-Learn, and tools such as Jupyter Notebook, OpenCV, as well as MLflow. And as if that was not enough, we have partnered with 25+ RTI providers so that we are able to get this real-time threat feeds and then deduce vulnerability intelligence with the Qualys platform. And for years, we've gathered many of these RTIs internally so that our customers don't have to create Excel sheets and pivot tables and stitch all this information. All of this is provided to you very seamlessly in the platform itself as part of our coverage. So that was about coverage. Let's now switch to our response time. Like I said, we have the fastest response time in the industry. This is the chart basically that we're tracking. This is the past almost 2 years of coverage for 0-day and critical vulnerabilities since 2023. As you can see, our median response time is approximately 16 hours, that is less than a day. And as you can see on the chart, some of the vendors, such as Palo Alto Networks, we are so good at detecting and responding to these. Close to 4 hours, by the time Palo Alto discloses that there's a vulnerability, it takes around 4 to 5 hours for us to create a detection for it. So that's how fast we've got in terms of response times. On the next slide, as you can see, this chart illustrates another major competitor of ours. If you can see on the chart, the negative values here indicate that we have detected a vulnerability sooner than the competitor. 0 values represent cases where both vendors that we compared with released at the same time. And positive values show when the competitor detected vulnerabilities before us. As you can see, there are multiple vulnerabilities at the bottom of the chart where the competitor, as far as last week, did not still have coverage for these vulnerabilities. Right? So this is our overall response time. Let's take a case. Let's consider this vulnerability here for Jenkins core. And this was basically a trending vulnerability in our top 10 for this year. And it took even CISA Kev 2 weeks after we initially discovered and disclosed this vulnerability. So that's how fast we are. We also have a very open and transparent detection pipeline where we are transparently disclosing any vulnerabilities that we are actively researching, what their timelines seem to be, which of these CVEs are under investigation, which of them are developed, which ones are recently published. So all of this is completely open, completely transparent. We want to make sure that the community benefits from this. So this is also available on our website. The last part of the trifecta is the Six Sigma accuracy. So for the past 10 years, we've been tracking scan after scan, every scan. And I'm happy to state that we have Six Sigma accuracy. As you see from this chart, all of these 10 years, we have been able to get 99.999% in accuracy, which basically means fewer false positives and most importantly, fewer false negatives for you. In this chart, we are tracking the time it takes for us to review and respond to a false positive case, because there's always going to be some false positives. And we want to make sure that we are responding to these false positive cases and basically keep improving this accuracy as well. As you can see, the overall median here is 15 to 20 days. We are able to respond to any of the false positives that our customers may have created or requested us, and then we review and keep improving that accuracy even further. Similarly, this is another chart of our false negatives. Here we are also tracking what are the vulnerabilities that we may have missed. And when our customers basically create tickets for us or tell us that we missed something, we again actively go and investigate, research, and make sure that the false negative accuracy is also improving. How do we do that? There are a combination of methodologies. One of them involves active probing technique, in which case we are sending specific data requests from a network scanner, and we are able to emulate or analyze what is that response that we're getting from the asset that we are assessing. And then this simulates the potential attacker's perspective, and we are able to detect that weakness proactively even before that exploitation occurs. Then we have exploit-based checks, like I talked about, where we are able to, in cases of applied mitigations, our exploit-based checks provide a more accurate risk assessment by reducing these false positives and offering insights from the attacker's perspective. The kernel package protection offers comprehensive detection across all kernel packages, including the ability to filter out any vulnerabilities on non-active kernels. Overall, our superior detection methods basically utilizes dynamic evaluation for in-depth checks, and these surpass any of the vendors that we had on that first slide. Essentially, we are going really deep. We are making sure that what we are detecting has all that context and all that accuracy that is needed. So to summarize, 103,000 CVs, 187,000 detections, 120 white hat researchers, and 16 hours of response time. So all these numbers are great, but what does it really mean for you? All of this is basically what powers TrueRisk. What is TrueRisk? You may have heard about TrueRisk. We've been talking about it throughout the conference. But a quick summary, TrueRisk is the most accurate way to measure and prioritize your risk. You're able to quantify risk across vulnerabilities, assets, groups, geographies, and you're able to track that risk reduction over time. We prioritize not only based on exploit and exposure, but we also look at the evidence of these exploits, as well as take in your enterprise business context in order to provide an accurate prioritization score for you. And all of this, like I said, is not only powered by our own 120 researchers, but we also have partnerships with 25 plus threat intel providers that are providing us this threat intel, which we are all correlating, normalizing, and making sure that we are providing you one score that you can use to prioritize and measure your risk. As a result, CVSS basically treats 52% of its vulnerabilities to be high or critical. So every other vulnerability that CVSS scores is a high or a critical. In case of EPSS, the problem is too few. So less than 2% of vulnerabilities that EPSS scores are high or critical. What we wanted to get is the best of both. We wanted to be just right. And that's what TrueRisk does. So basically, it reduces, it cuts from 52% to less than 10% of your vulnerabilities that we really think you should be prioritizing. As part of ETM that we launched yesterday, we are also launching TrueRisk 2.0. So this is a newer algorithm, this is a newer methodology, and 4 key changes that we are announcing as part of TrueRisk 2.0. First is TrueRisk 2.0 has expanded risk sources and risk factors. In addition to IT host assets, TrueRisk 2.0 supports additional sources such as cloud resources, such as workloads, containers, web applications, GenAI and LLM models. And TrueRisk 2.0 also expands the risk factors by supporting expired certificates, misconfigurations, unauthorized ports, unauthorized software, end of life and end of support software, and also supports missing software and custom rule-based scoring. We've also pivoted the counts in this model to CVEID so that we are standardizing. As part of ETM, we are ingesting vulnerabilities and misconfigurations and findings from third-party vendors, other partners, right? So in this case, we wanted to make sure that the formula captures the counts which are more global and more standard. So we are using CVEIDs instead of QIDs here in the formula so that there is more accuracy that is provided to the TrueRisk score. We've also improved the precision of risk scoring. So the new algorithm is using, instead of averages, we are now using the maximum scores that each of these CVs provide, each of these severities provide. And as a result, the precision has also increased. And last but not the least, TrueRisk 2.0, unlike TrueRisk 1.0, is dynamically scoring the assets, the vulnerabilities every hour. So customers don't have to wait for a scan to complete for them to get the updated score. So that's what TrueRisk 2.0 is, and we are very excited about that. For this year, TrueRisk 2.0 is going to be available only to the customers that upgrade to ETM. And for our existing customers, VMDR, PC, any other customers, we plan to have an option to switch to TrueRisk 2.0 somewhere in the middle of 2025. I wanted to quickly capture what are the advantages of QIDs over CVIDs, since I talked about in the previous slide why we are pivoting to the CVID counts. So the first one is streamlined remediation. Essentially, QID is consolidating and grouping all the vulnerabilities that can be patched by one patch, right? So we are essentially saving all that time, all that noise, and that's the reason we believe that QIDs are still more powerful. And as part of TrueRisk 0, we are essentially giving you best of both worlds. You're able to view it grouped by QID, or you are able to view it grouped by CVEID. QIDs also provide contextual insights for effective prioritization. So all of the enhanced contextual insights and details such as impact, severity, application conditions, and this enables organizations to prioritize and also respond to these vulnerabilities more effectively. QIDs also have better and more comprehensive coverage, because if there are vulnerabilities that, like I showed earlier, did not have a CVEID, we still score them, we still treat them the same. So as a result, QIDs are significantly better than CVIDs. And last but not least, the streamlined mitigation. QID provides comprehensive remediation steps, and this enables efficient reduction of vulnerabilities as well as saving time and resources. So that was about Threat Research Unit, and thank you for attending my session.